Hi there, business owner, and welcome to the 3Bs podcast, the place where we go beyond the numbers and dive into strategies to help you build a better business one step at a time. I'm your host, Stephanie, a multi-award-winning entrepreneur with over a decade of experience in the bookkeeping and accountancy world. If you're a business owner looking to streamline, grow, and get back the time that you deserve, you're in the right place. We're tackling real-world problems, answering tough questions, and digging deep into business-building secrets in just 15 minutes each week. So are you ready to build a better business with confidence and clarity? Then let's go. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the 3Bs podcast, your go-to place for around 15 minutes of motivation, education and inspiration each week to help you build a better business. If we've not met before, hi, my name is Stephanie Marshall. I'm a bookkeeper, business owner, podcaster, author, and someone who cares deeply about the humans behind businesses and helping them to build better ones. Now, today's episode is an interesting one because it comes from something I see quite a lot in my line of work. When you work in the bookkeeping and accountancy world, you end up with a slightly unusual view of businesses because you get to see behind the scenes. You see the numbers, you see the patterns, and sometimes you see the problems forming long before the business owner realizes that something is wrong. And that's not because business owners are doing anything wrong intentionally, but because when you're running a business, you're often very close to it. You're in there day to day, busy serving clients, delivering work, managing a team, and dealing with all those day-to-day chaos and firefights that running a business can sometimes bring. The numbers tend to get looked at last. So in today's episode, I want to talk about 5 financial red flags I often see before a business starts to struggle. And the good news is that these red flags are not signs of failure. They are early warning signals, which means there are still opportunities to fix things before they become much bigger problems. If you've listened to any episode of the 3Bs podcast before, you know what I'm about to say. Red flag number 1, avoiding the numbers. This is probably the most common one. Sometimes when I speak to business owners and ask questions like, what was your profit last quarter? What's your VAT position right now? What are your monthly overheads? I get a slightly uncomfortable pause. Now, please know that there is absolutely no judgment here. Most business owners did not start their business because they love spreadsheets and financial reports. I know I'm the odd one out in that situation. But avoiding the numbers does not make them disappear. In fact, burying your head in the sand usually makes them even more stressful. Businesses that run calmly tend to have a simple rhythm when it comes to finances. They review their numbers regularly as part of their daily, weekly, monthly workflow. It's a to-do list task that gets done consistently, and it just becomes part of your everyday life. Not obsessively either, just regularly enough that they understand what is happening in their business. When you know your numbers, you can make decisions with confidence. When you do not know your numbers, you're just guessing. And guessing in business can become expensive really fast. Which leads me into red flag number 2, being constantly behind with your bookkeeping. Now, this is something I see a lot, and I get it. You're busy doing your day-to-day run of your business. Bookkeeping falls behind because there's a new project or a busy period at work. A few weeks then become a few months, and suddenly it's near the end of the quarter and everything needs updating quickly because the VAT is due, or from April your making tax digital returns are due. And what usually sits underneath that situation isn't even laziness, it's just pure overwhelm. Business owners are juggling so many responsibilities that the bookkeeping often ends up at the bottom of the list. But the longer that bookkeeping is left, the harder it becomes to catch up. And more importantly, the less useful the information becomes. Financial information and the data that holds is the most valuable to a business owner when it is current and up to date. If you are looking at your numbers from 3 months ago, you're making decisions based off history rather than reality. Keeping bookkeeping up to date is not about ticking a compliance box. It's about having accurate information so that you can run the business properly and make decisions on real data to help you build a better business. Red flag number 3, we talked about this a few weeks ago on the podcast. Revenue increasing, but your profit shrinking. This one surprises quite a few people because many business owners assume that if revenue is growing, then the business must be doing well, right? But that's not always the case. I've seen businesses double their revenue while becoming more stressed financially. Why? Well, because growth without structure can create pressure. More clients means more work. More work can mean more costs, and more costs can mean margins quietly shrinking in the background. If your pricing has not kept pace with growth, or if systems have not evolved with the business, that growth could actually make things harder for you.
Yes, I agree. Revenue looks impressive as it's increasing, but it's the profit what makes a sustainable business. Red flag 4, using VAT money as working capital. Now, this is a very common situation for businesses that are growing quickly. A client pays an invoice, the payment lands in the bank account. Part of that payment is the VAT belongs to the HMRC. But we always advise for business owners that when they come to work with us at ABCS UK to put that immediately into a pot or a savings account, so because that money is not yours to touch. What often happens is because the VAT return's not due yet, it can feel like an available cash fund. So it gets used to pay suppliers, wages, cover expenses, sometimes simply just to keep the business moving. But then the VAT quarter arrives, and suddenly there's a very uncomfortable realization that a significant amount of money needs to be paid to HMRC, and it's just not there in the business owner's bank account. The VAT was never the business's money. It was simply passing through the business to HMRC. The businesses that manage this well usually separate the VAT money mentally or physically, so it's not accidentally spent. If you use one of the online banks like Monzo and Starling, you can actually set up automatically having the VAT money move to a pot whenever income enters your business account. Doing this means VAT is less likely to call you a surprise, because VAT surprises are rarely ever actually surprises. They're just usually visibility problems, or you've not got your systems in place. Red flag 5. Every financial decision is reactive. Now, this is something I see quite often when businesses are under pressure, when they're stretched. Decisions are made quickly, there's no time to think about it and look at the data. Problems are solved in the moment, you're always firefighting, but there's very little forward planning. Cash flow forecasting hasn't been looked at. Tax planning happens very late. Major decisions are made without financial context. And when a business reaches this stage, it often feels like everything is slightly chaotic. But the solution is not necessarily to work harder. It's usually to introduce a bit more structure and a few more systems, looking ahead rather than constantly firefighting, because businesses run far more smoothly when financial decisions are proactive rather than reactive. Now, I want to be really clear about something. Every single red flag that I have mentioned today is fixable. These are not signs that a business is failing. They are simply signals that something needs attention. And often the earlier those signals are spotted, the easier they are to resolve. Running a business will always involve uncertainty and challenges. That's completely normal. But financial clarity removes a huge amount of unnecessary stress. And I would not be doing my job as a bookkeeper and accountant without telling you of these big red flags that I see time and time again when clients come to work with us at ABCS UK. So those are 5 financial red flags I often see before businesses start to struggle. Avoiding the numbers and burying their heads in the sand, bookkeeping falling behind by months and months, revenue rising but profit shrinking, using their VAT money unintentionally or to keep themselves afloat, and making every financial decision reactively rather than planning ahead and being proactive. If any of those sound familiar, please know that you're not alone. This is a judgment-free zone here too. Most businesses go through periods where systems need to evolve as the business grows. But ignoring the warning signs never improves the situation. Fixing them early does. If you found this episode useful, please do take a few seconds to like, rate and review the podcast, subscribe and hit that notification bell on YouTube so that you know when the next episode of the 3Bs podcast goes live. It genuinely helps more business owners find these conversations so we can all build better businesses. And that's the whole point of this podcast. And if your business finances currently feel messy, chaotic, reactive or unclear, that is exactly the kind of problem we help clients solve at ABCS UK. Because your business deserves better. Thank you for listening. This has been the 3Bs podcast. I've been Stephanie and I'll see you next week for the next episode. Bye.
And that brings us to the end of another episode of the 3Bs podcast. I hope you found it useful and that you're walking away with some motivation, inspiration, or education to help you build a better business. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and of course connect with us on social media for more insights, tips, and behind the scenes content. Your next step in building a better business is just a click away. I can't wait to connect with you, and I'll see you on the next episode. Bye.